morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told how to voice a radio. So today, I need to tell you about a new Pokemon deck. You see, the lovely Antoine Boulay has gone and got in touch and said, Wassy, you like showing people great new decks. Well, if you're looking for a cool deck to make a fun video about, have a look at this deck that made top 8 at a recent City League over in Japan. Now, there's 2 reasons I like this deck. Number 1, it's a really good deck. Number 2, it works pretty perfectly over here. Now remember that Japan are, and they're switching away from it very shortly, but they are currently playing in a very, very slightly different format. There are a couple of cards that they've got that we don't, none of which really affect the functioning of the deck. So we're good to go, ladies and gentlemen. And it is a Raichu and a Alolan Raichu, Buzzwole, and Pheromosa deck. Yeah, right? It's not one that was particularly on my radar. And I've not seen many other people talk about it very much. In fact, Buzzwole and Pheromosa has largely been played lately so that people can use B-String to get energy onto it and then tag switch to move the energy elsewhere. That's basically been what it's used for. Well, I got news for you, ladies and gentlemen. This deck does play B-String and it does play tag switch. Although, to be honest with you, right, most decks really should if they're playing tag team Pokemon at the moment. It's a great card. But make no mistake about it, this is a Buzzwole and Pheromosa, Raichu and Alolan Raichu deck. It works for both. It's kind of wonderful. So Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX then. A lovely card which has generally been seen in Pikachu and Zekrom decks up till now. So it's seen a little bit of play. And for free energy, it does 80 damage, but if it was on the bench and became active this turn, you do 160 damage and paralysis. And then the GX attack does 150 and you switch to the bench. But if you've got an extra 2 energy, so 5 total, it does 250 and switches to the bench. Buzzwole and Pheromosa for 1 energy does 30 to the active, 30 to the bench, great turn 1 option. And then for 2 grass, 1 colourless, does 190. And next turn, it only does 60. But you'll have something else active next turn. GX attack does 50 damage, and if you take a KO, you take an extra prize. But if you've got 8 energy on there, and you take a KO, you take 3 extra prize cards. Rather expensive, but certainly worth it if you can actually get it rolling. And the thing is that you can either use Buzzwole and Pheromosa in the early game, or of course, and this shouldn't surprise you, it's every Lightning deck, but we've got the combination of Thunder Mountain Prism Star and Tapu Koko Prism Star that can very much get it rolling, by which I mean Raichu and Alolan Raichu, in a single turn. Now in terms of other Pokemon, we've got Jirachi here, which, well, I mean, it's Jirachi, right? Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, find a trainer card, put it in your hand, it goes to sleep, you use Escape Board to give yourself free retreat, and allow you to retreat while asleep. Fairly standard. We've got 1 copy of Absol, the one that increases the retreat cost of basic Pokemon by 1. It's a fairly nice tech, especially in an age of tag team GXs. We see it quite a bit. 1 copy of Pheromosa. Now, this is a lot of the time just literally played because it's got free retreat. It's alright if you've got 1 prize remaining. It does 180 for free energy, but it's not phenomenal. It's just a good free retreater. We've then got Oricorio, the GX, which, if you had a Pokemon KO'd last turn, you get to draw 3 cards. It's really cool, frankly. Yeah, draws cards. It's what it does. It sees a lot of play. And then we've got 1 Tapu Koko GX, and this does in this deck as Heatran does in those fire decks we've been seeing. You play it down, you move a bunch of energy over, and either you do 130 and just take out a couple little non-GXs, or more likely, you go and take a big KO with the GX attack. You do 50 damage for each energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon, so there may well be a point in the game where you can drop this as a surprise to KO a Tag Team GX, especially after they've used their Tag Team attack and they've got like 6 energy on. So very much something to bear in mind. And in the age of Welder decks, there's often quite a bit of energy on your opponent's side of the board. Now the thing to really note about this is it is trying to kind of be 2 decks in one. This is very much sometimes it's Buzzwole and Pheromosa, sometimes it's Raichu and Alolan Raichu. Because do remember that those Welder decks like Reshiram and Charizard will love a fire-weak Tag Team GX. So, yeah, you need to not play it against those decks. Now, the good news is the creator of the deck has made this handy slide, which basically shows what you play against what. Buzzwole and Pheromosa is really quite nice when you're against those non-GX decks, or ones where they're not hitting you for weakness, and against something like Chaldea where you're hitting for weakness. Whereas those bigger, bolder, fierier decks are Raichu and Alolan Raichu, and also the slightly bigger ones where you might need to paralyze them. And then there's a couple in the middle that you can kind of take down with either. I know, right? Very, very handy. Between the two, you've basically got an answer for everything. Now, in terms of energy, we're actually playing 7 lightning and 4 grass. And the reason for this is, well, you've got Tapu Koko Prism Star that can take advantage of it. And you're playing Volkner. And the format as it is means you'll probably use Raichu and Alolan Raichu a little more often. But you've still got your grass energy there. And of course, you've got Beast energy, which will work for Pheromosa and Buzzwole, but won't work for Raichu and Alolan Raichu. So, think of it as like an extra grass energy. There's not that much difference. In terms of trainer cards, we're playing 4 Tag Call. Tag Call is amazing, lets you search for 2 tag team cards, whether they be Pokemon or supporters. And yes, like every deck at the moment, we are playing tag team supporters. We've got 3 copies of Cynthia and Caitlin. That's the one that lets you find a supporter card in your discard pile, put it in your hand, and if you wish, discard a card from your hand and draw 3. We've got a copy of Guzma and Hala that lets you search for a stadium card, but then when you play the card, you may discard a couple cards from your hand, and then also search for a tool and a special energy, like for argument's sake, Beast Energy. And then 2 copies of Mallow and Lana. That's the one that lets you switch. And then if you discard a couple cards from your hand, you can heal 120 from the Pokemon that you sent to the bench. Cool. And especially with these big tag team GXs, if your opponent isn't getting a one-hit KO, the healing is going to be pretty gosh darn big. Now, in terms of other supporters here, they are playing Guzma, but you could easily substitute that out for Custom Catcher or Great Catcher. So it's not a huge loss, if I'm honest with you. I don't mind that at all. We got 3 copies of Volkner that lets you search for a Lightning Energy and an item card. That's going to be kind of handy. And 2 copies of Rosa. Now, Rosa's one of the new cards which is coming out in Cosmic Eclipse. And it only works if you had a Pokemon KO'd during your opponent's previous turn. However, when that happens, you search your deck for a Pokemon and a trainer, doesn't have to be item, any trainer, and a basic energy. So, yeah, it's very much worth it. Remember, sometimes you want to go hard Raichu and Alolan Raichu, sometimes you need Pheromosa and Buzzwole, so it's really important to be able to switch to whichever tact you want here. It's very nice. Now, in terms of stadiums, we do have a copy of Power Plant to turn off abilities. Pretty important against something like Keldeo, for instance. And we then have 1 each of Thunder Mountain Prism Star and Life Forest Prism Star, because they're the awesome Prism Stars. Thunder Mountain reduces the attack cost of lightning Pokemon by 1 lightning energy. Life Forest lets you heal 60 damage in all special conditions from one of your grass Pokemon. Again, which one you have is going to depend on who's your main Pokemon this turn. We've then got a couple copies of a skateboard like we mentioned, couple copies of B-String to get a bit of extra energy onto the field, couple copies of Switch so you can switch between your Pokemon as you like, couple copies of Reset Stamp. Reset Stamp's in every deck at the moment, it's amazing. Makes your opponent shuffle their hand into their deck, draw cards equal to their remaining prizes, so if they've taken a bit of a lead, stop them. One copy of Energy Spinner to get your energy, especially turn 1 going second. And then we got a copy of Island Challenge Amulet. Takes away 100 HP, but it also means you give up 1 fewer prize when KO'd by damage from an opponent's attack. So it means your opponent has to KO 3 tag teams rather than 2 in order to win the game. And alright, one of them's got 100 less HP, but it still forces your opponent to take an extra 160 HP KO. So that still sounds pretty gosh darn good to me. Now there are a couple of other cards that we don't have. They have Nest Ball and we don't, which is slightly sad. But you could use Pokemon Communication, or you could use something like Cherish Ball. It wouldn't search out your Jirachi, which is slightly upsetting. But I don't think it's anything that's going to stop the deck being viable. And we're losing a couple of Field Blower, but everyone plays Field Blower. And then everyone was not allowed anymore, and we all coped. Losing Field Blower is not going to kill the deck, because it hasn't killed any decks. And then we're losing Choice Band, which is slightly sad, but you could just play Electro Power here. And okay, it would only work on one of your main attackers, but then it would work against non-GXs as well. So again, I don't see that as a hugely terrible thing. This is a very fun deck, a deck which I didn't particularly see coming, and a deck which seems to have a real chance of being a powerhouse deck. Frankly, ladies and gentlemen, I love it. And I really don't think, as I've just explained, that any of the cards we're losing make a huge difference at all. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I think about this deck, but I'd like to know what you think about this deck. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would you? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.